You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Parker Ainsworth joined by Leif Thulin here. Leif, these are fun football stories, rebuilding programs, bright futures ahead. In the present tense, these are two of the best basketball programs in America. AP polls came out on Monday. Houston came in number 2. I believe I had Arizona at 13th, if I remember correctly, on that AP poll. You've been covering basketball for a long time. You knew this Big 12 thing, and we're roping in, excited to have you. But you saw that AP poll, Arizona, Big 12 centric. What stuck out to you?
I mean, I think the Big 12 is going to be fantastic. Like, you look at the Big 12, Houston, obviously the torchbearer for the 2 years they've been in the conference. Kansas, of course, won 17 of 18 at one point prior, and that was kind of the afterthought. You had BYU it was in the top 10. You had Texas Tech in the top 10. Arizona just outside of it. Iowa State, who before getting hurt last year, you could make an argument was the truest contender with Houston. And then there's Kansas. Like that's 6 teams right there. Yeah, exactly. That's 6 teams right there that I think will be all within the top 4 seed lines. Maybe that's bold right now. I mean, we haven't played a game. The scrimmages even really haven't happened yet. But as a college basketball guy, that's what I love to watch. I do NBA scouting, and I'm so excited to be in this Big 12 space. I can't be more thrilled about where these teams are right now, and I only think they're going to be more well represented in the Big 12 than what this poll has, and that's kind of scary to think when my end of that sentence was, and then there's Kansas. So to answer your question, I'm excited about what Arizona is. I made my own poll prior to the AP poll, and I had Arizona a couple spots higher than they were in the poll, and I had Houston actually 2 spots lower to 4, falling precipitously. but I'm very high on each of these programs.
I want to get to the 2 specific in a second. They also had other receiving votes, as they always do in these things. And I may be crazy. I know they replaced their entire roster. I may have too much respect for Scott Drew. Mm-hmm. I can't believe Baylor only got 1 vote. And I'm not saying they're a top 10 or 15 team. I'm not saying that the preseason even matters all that much, Leif. I kind of thought they'd be closer to making it in the top 25 here. And they got a singular vote, as much as Oklahoma did, for what it's worth, and significantly less than Kansas State did, another Big 12 representative, right? And I guess it just had more faith in Coach Drew over there. Did anything else stick out to you as Big 12 crazy when you saw this?
I felt like Scott Drew and company probably deserved to be outside of the top 25, but not by much. So I understand they got received 1 vote. I would have assumed they'd receive more, but it didn't bother me that they weren't in it. I wouldn't be surprised though if that's a 6 seed. If you do the math, that puts them within the top 25. So right. I do think that it's hard to pick a team that has 0 returning anything to be there. But if you look at this team, that's the team I had 7th. I did my standing projections. And I kind of think that's where it falls off for the Big 12. But I think you're going to have 6 teams within the top 4 seed lines, and then you're going to fall off. You're not going to have quite the depth that the SEC had of 14 teams making it last year. But I think 8 or 9 is possible, and you're going to have 6 or 7 of them within the top 5 seed lines. That's really hard to beat. I actually think the Big 12 is going to be the best conference in America this year and take that throne back from the SEC. I think it'll be close, though.
Well, and speaking of close, we were a blown tech lead from having that half the Final Four a year ago. And then ultimately, I'll say it openly. Houston blew the last 65 seconds of a national title game from a Big 12 championship, right? So I get how the SEC had the depth and then ultimately did have half the Final Four and all those kinds of things. The Big 12 was so close a year ago, and I'm like you, I kind of think they're better. These 2 programs, currently both in the top 15, are only scheduled to meet once this season. I'd imagine they meet again in the Big 12 tournament, but right now it's just once. That's supposed to be in Houston. Now, that for Houston is in the middle of, they play at Iowa State Monday, they host Arizona Saturday, at Kansas the following Monday. That is the week from, can we say hell on here? It's a week from hell. I don't know if we can say it on here or not. Leif, as you see this matchup between these 2 teams, again, both highly ranked in the AP poll right now, what do you see as schedule aside, I guess the key focus between these two groups here, because the rosters are both freshman heavy, but also have some of those veterans.
Well, if we were speaking of just their matchup, and then I'll get to the grander scheme, but it'll be who wins the rebounding battle. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about that the week it happens, because Arizona's enormous and Houston is known for just being an amazing rebounding team. But Juwan Roberts is gone. I mean, Chris Senac's fantastic, but like that's a difference. But to me, the difference between who wins the Big 12, and this will be beyond just these two teams. You can toss in Texas Tech, you can toss in BYU, Iowa State, Kansas, those top six, to me will really boil down to whose young stars are truly the stars and whose supporting cast of like the years prior can develop into stars. And for Houston, the answer is like, it's easy. Is Uzan going to be an All-American? Because Houston lost LJ Cryer and then their heartbeat, Juwan Roberts, right? Like, I'm not telling your fans anything new, but I do think people are underestimating that when they have Houston at 2, that you lose a guy in Roberts whose stat line looks pedestrian, but he's the heartbeat of that team. And then you lose an All-American in Cryer, who's the most gifted scorer of that team. Uzan, to me, was a better player than Cryer last year, but you're asking him to shift his role and be more of a scorer. Sharp has to step up in his scouting report and score the basketball. And for Arizona, how good is Koa Peat compared to collegiate guys? He was dominant in high school, and he's going to be a physical mismatch, and they're going to get a million rebounds with Tobe Awaka and Mo Krivas coming back, and he was the guy who was hogging those touches, got hurt, and then all of a sudden they still had Henry Visar. Like, that was a good problem to have. However, how good is Burry's going to be at the real deal level? And is Bradley going to take that leap similar to Uzan? So to me, these are the best two teams along with Texas Tech. I think BYU's got a lot of talent, but they've got more things to figure out. Like, the recipes are clear for these two teams, but really whose supporting cast members take larger leaps is who's going to differentiate, I think, eventually cut down the nets in the Big 12.
Well, I like that metaphor, that idea that the recipes are much more well known for these two teams. I like that a lot, actually, because I feel like, I don't mean to say you're wrong. Obviously, I'm going to argue the Houston side of this. Houston had the same questions to answer when Marcus Sasser left, and the same question to answer when Jamal Shed left, and the same, like, it feels like they find one. But I admit, like you're saying, I'm just kind of trusting that they find one. I think it might be Sharp picking up a few more points or shots per game and stuff like that. But I am assuming, like you're saying, they find one because they have in the past. Now, Sampson's done that enough times for me to assume that they'll do that again. That Cenac Peat matchup, though, you also do NBA draft stuff at Locked On. Again, it only happens in the regular season one time, and I'm sure draft guys like yourself are jealous that it doesn't happen more, like some of these other, just the way that schedule worked out. Freshman, power forward. Is that the best matchup in America right now between two potential top 10 picks?
I mean, that we guarantee happens. I mean, if Pete plays Boozer, or if, you get, I will say AJ and Darren's going to be number one. So though we're homers here, I will go AJ and Darren.
Do you think they cover each other? I guess my thing is, Pete and Cenac are going to cover each other too, right?
I agree. I think that does make a difference. I'm curious because I think Koa is going to be the better collegiate player. I'll just make my prediction now. I think Koa is going to be the better collegiate player. I wouldn't be surprised if Cenac ends up going higher in the draft just due to the prototype of what is more desired in the NBA. He's longer. He's a little more raw. Koa's kind of been what he's been. He's been dominant. There's no issue there. He's been absolutely dominant at all levels. But what more is there to add? I feel like Cenac's got more untapped potential, and there's a risk there. But that's my prediction. I think Koa is going to be the more decorated collegiate player, and I think Cenac may end up going higher in the NBA draft. So there's always that fold. And I really, one more thing about the grand scheme of like the Big 12 and who could win it. I really think that if you look at this team, this conference in terms of title contenders, there's a tier that is Houston absolutely deserves there, and they're first and foremost. I have them higher than Arizona, but I don't think it's by as much as some people do, because like Kelvin deserves all of the credit in the world and he gets the benefit of doubt, but he's never, and I know you bring up like they lose Sasser and Shed steps up, but Shed had played before that. They've never really gone from a true stalwart for year in and year out of Juwan Roberts being there to someone who wasn't there in Cenac. Because even when Jarris Walker came in, there were other guys that could still step in and play, and they lost a role that was less critical. Like, he played a supplementary role, an ancillary piece, even though he's a lottery pick. Like, Cenac is stepping in for the heartbeat. And as for Arizona, Koa Peat steps in, but they've had like interchangeable bodies up front. And the thing about Arizona is because Tommy Lloyd plays so fast, they play a lot of bodies. It's less dependent on him. Houston doesn't necessarily play with the same level of depth or pace. So they're a little more reliant on just the dependability. And that's why I'm a little lower on Houston. Granted, they're still number 4 in the country for me. Like it's not crazy. But I do think that there are closer teams in the Big 12 to Houston than there were the last 2 years. That's the way I'll put it.
Well, and I think that cultural background the two programs have actually ties a lot into what I want to do in the third segment. I've been trying to build a Houston rival for a minute now, Leaf, and I think that there's a shot here that it could be Arizona. Before I get to the I-10 rivalry that is, I do want to remind folks that today's show is brought to you by our buddies over at Wayfair. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting, but getting your home ready for guests and celebrations can feel like a lot. Maybe you need new serveware or a guest room needs new bedding. Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready, from Christmas trees to wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for everything in your house. Now, Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection of for every style and budget, with free and easy delivery. Even on the big stuff, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees. Just get organized, refreshed, and stay ready for the holidays the 4-way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.